Gichakatami. The Shinjuku Showdown Round 3. Higuruma and Yuji vs. Ryomen Sukuna, fight. Jujutsu Kaisen. Chapter 244, The Decisive Battle in the Uninhabited, Demon-Infested Shinjuku 16. What a dumbass, all out means everyone is fighting. I'm going first, though. The issue is Sukuna. Even though it's an all-out battle, we still have to decide who we're sending to the battlefield. But we'll really need Okotsu back ASAP, so we're counting on you. For Kenjaku, we'll have Takaba create an opening for Okotsu to strike. In the case that Gojo loses, we need a backup plan. Kenjaku stopped that swings with his bare hands through Teihihi. She was lacking in power to begin with, and then she went and made a binding vow in Shibuya to never swing a katana again. Take our Miwa here, for example. And just what would be the point of sending someone out to get killed if they can't even buy us an opening? Though, one expect Kenjaku to immediately hunt down the remaining players. Even if Sukuna and Kenjaku get their way, I don't think it's impossible to survive the merger when the resulting monster begins wreaking havoc on the world. That we can use cursed energy to prevent ourselves from being included. With regards to the merger with Tengen-sama, I have a feeling. I don't think I'll be of any assistance. I'm sorry, but I'll have to abstain from participating. Even more if Sukuna is the only one of those two left standing. No matter how this plays out, we'll at least have a few days. Okay, got it. No worries. I intend to take them with me and fly overseas. I'd like to watch over my family, if even for a little while. Thanks for teaching me all that stuff, senpai. The only ones who'll be useful in this fight are those crazy enough to try. This isn't some public execution. We don't need to hear everybody's explanations. Those of you who want to die and those of you who think you don't care about dying, anyone who doesn't fall into those three groups is either on the bench or providing support. Those of you who can use the reverse cursed technique. Is that so? You really helped, cause Choso sucks at teaching. My cursed technique can confiscate Sukuna. I'll go out after Kashimo. I'm still not okay with that, either. It's just a thankful you're letting Gojo-san take the first crack at it. It's just a hypothetical, man. You assuming I'm gonna lose is really pissing me off. If he's sentenced to death, I can fight Sukuna with the executioner's sword. A sword that kills with a single swing. It'd be a big help. But even you can't be sure whether the verdict will be confiscation or death penalty, right? Sukuna and I swapped 3 times. At my high school, at the detention center, and at Shibuya. None. You don't have any say there, do you, Higuruma? That'll depend on which crimes Judge Man charges Sukuna with. Honestly, it's hard to say. I think most of what he's done has been pretty serious. There's a pretty high chance that judgment prosecution a crime that would be punishable by death. And since swapping to Fushiguro's body, he's probably been doing whatever he pleases. He caused a ton of casualties both at the detention center and in Shibuya. Shibuya, 1. Murder of 2 high school-aged curse users. 2. Attempted mass murder of the citizens of Shibuya. 3. Murder of that curse user with the side ponytail. 4. Arson of residential buildings. At the detention center, CD murder of Itadori. Since he came back to life, I suppose it would be considered attempted murder. 2. Attempted murder of Fushiguro Megumi. At Itadori's high school. 1. Bodily harm against Itadori by means of taking over his body. 2. Attempted murder of Gojo Satoru. He caused a ton of casualties both at the detention center and in Shibuya. If we summarize our current knowledge of Sukuna's actions, the detention center was much worse than that. Depending on Fushiguro Megumi's status, the charge could be bodily harm, attempted murder, or theft of a dead body. Which brings us to his takeover of Fushiguro Megumi's body. Sukuna is at fault. Albeit indirectly. I wouldn't call it aiding and abetting. Sukuna's fingers, HM. It's difficult to pin the blame on Sukuna for harm caused by cursed objects. In that same vein, the case of Yoshino Junpei's mother is just as tricky. For the murder of 3 or more people, the death penalty is most common. For 2 people, life in prison or death. The murder of a single person usually results in imprisonment with hard labor for 10 to 15 years. As for sentencing rates for murder, Noga Hub. According to the Nagayama standard, this would lead to the death penalty. If it's a normal trial, that is. Sukuna has repeatedly demonstrated cruelty through his conduct, causing significant social harm for his own self-benefit. This would imply that he cannot be rehabilitated into our society. You really underestimate me. Huh. You know what he's talking about, Kusakabe-san. You're just faking it, right? What? I see. If we look at the charges we just listed, by my count, less than 30% of those would get him the death penalty. But Higuruma's technique prosecutes each charge one by one. In a normal trial, if you take all his crimes into account, Sukuna would be executed. Hypothetically, if you stabbed someone, you would be charged with attempted murder and bodily harm. But technically, you also tore the victim's clothes, so property damage should be included too. Another problem is that each of his major crimes is attached to a number of minor ones. In that case, securing the death penalty sentencing will be tough. It's quite possible that if we were to look at Sukuna's massacre in Shibuya, Judge Man may choose to prosecute him for property damage or breaking and entering instead. What kind of stuff do you get into? Are you an idiot? Right. Sukuna could also be charged with Itadori's petty crimes due to having been incarnated in his body. I could see that happening. Judge Man even brought up my playing pachinko as a minor. Would that not fall under the statute of limitations? What's an even bigger issue are the crimes from 1,000 years ago. So his crimes from 1,000 years ago should fall under that statute. The modern set of laws introduced in the Meiji era includes the general idea of a statute of limitations. So, no statute. The statute of limitations regarding murder was abolished when the criminal procedure law was amended in 2010. So there is one. No, the statute of limitations is still valid regarding murders occurring before 1985. Well then, no statute of limitations, I guess. However, the Heian era's governing rules known as the Euro Code didn't include a statute of limitations. Depending on how Sukuna operated prior to incarnation, there may not be a statute of limitations, even under the modern set of laws. If the offender is abroad, the progression of the statute of limitations is halted. Seriously, which is it? Huh? I don't know. Precisely. Like if it takes the time he wasn't incarnated and considers it to be him, being abroad. If I see something as even remotely possible, so too will Judge Man. Judge Man is a Shikigami manifested by my cursed technique. The chances that Judge Man lands on a charge that gives us a clear-cut death sentence are extremely low. And Sukuna's innumerable crimes, both big and small. Which means that taking into account Sukuna's crimes from 1,000 years ago, judgment's discretion. I think I have something. Either way, it's a huge help. Still, I'm not sure if both techniques would be confiscated. I've never trialed someone with multiple abilities before. Even with a guilty verdict leading to confiscation, I'm just grateful you're able to do something. I may have a way to ensure Sukuna gets sentenced to death. Gojo Kenjaku and now Sukuna. I guess my power doesn't face the complete monsters. That said, they all opted to dodge, so doesn't that say something about if it were to land? He's distracted, the rest is up to you, Higuruma. Itadori. Was that? Domain expansion, Deadly sentencing. We're having a retrial. If we do that, we can charge Sukuna with the Shibuya massacre. We'll have a retrial for that previous case and drag Sukuna into it. We'll appeal. Under the pretense of Sukuna being added as a CO defendant, reopening the case may be possible. If I apply for a retrial for a case that has already been settled. Hold on. Gah. Then that won't work. Deadly sentencing chooses one of the 3 court tiers at random when pro-citing. Even if IT doesn't work, we can at least narrow down the crimes to those done while incarnated inside Itadori's body. It would essentially be as if I targeted Itadori with my technique. The logic is, there isn't any direct benefit to me. Itadori Yuji is accused under suspicion of committing mass murder in Shibuya on October 31, 2018. His previous confession in high court was false, motivated by a strong sense of personal accountability. He didn't kill anyone. The real culprit is. Have the tides turned? Ready for death. The battle of the courtroom is now in session. Jujutsu Kaisen. Chapter 244 End.